This story just in: Israeli agents shot dead Al-Qaeda's number 2 leader on the streets of Tehran at the behest of U.S. officials. Abu Muhammad al-Mazari was killed 3 months ago. And the reason he was killed is because that not only was he the number 2 man in Al-Qaeda, but he also was the mastermind behind the deadly 1998 attacks on American embassies in Africa. And I have to believe that this is not going to be the last time this is going to happen. I have to believe that President Trump is probably going to be calling out the assassination of a number of guilty parties before this is all said and done. But something I need to let you know is this right here, is that I am spreading out. I have already begun my migration to MeWe, which is basically a social media alternative to Facebook. Now, I'm not saying that I'm leaving Facebook just yet. It really all depends on how things go. If they pull back on their censorship of conservatives, and really I don't know that I've seen too much of that yet, but that may be where I have to finally move to and make that my permanent home. Some of you have already joined and connected with me. I'm also going to be getting on Parler. I don't have a Twitter account, but I'm thinking that I see news happening all the time, and I usually wait until I gather up enough information to create a video like this and then present it to you all at once. But I'm not going to get on Twitter, but I may get on Parler. I am on Parler right now, but I got to figure out how that works. So if you want to know when I have an update or to follow me as far as news is concerned, well, my address on Parler is capital T Malone 10 at capital T Malone 10. And I don't know if the capital T is necessary, but if it is, go ahead and put that in. But if you want to, matter of fact, if you are on Yahoo Groups and you have been getting notifications about when I have a video out or an article or whatever, or any type of notification, that's going away in about a month. I think it's December the 15th is the last time Yahoo Groups is completely disbanded. So I will not be able to send you that out anymore. So you're going to have to get on this. So again, it's T, capital T, Malone 10 at capital T, Malone 10. And this will be the new way that I will send you a message indicating that I have an article or I may have information that you might want regarding either the election or something else that's going on in the world, and definitely in the world of prophecy. So I would go to Parler if in fact that is what you want for me to do, and that is to keep you updated and to notify you when I do have a video. And if you're new to Parler, it's spelled Parler. So be sure to go to your app store and download this app. Right now it is either the number 1 or number 2, or very close to that anyway, downloaded app, and also MeWe is also up there in that same area. So this seems to be where most people are moving to try to get away from the Twitters of the world and also either Facebook or YouTube. And like I said, if we can get a big enough following going on these sites, we might be able to put Facebook out of business. Now, there's been rumors that are going around that if in fact President Trump and his legal team are unable to prove enough fraud, and he is unable to overturn some of these rigged state elections, such as Pennsylvania, now Georgia. I'm reading that Georgia, they're going to have a recount, but the recount will be done with only one observer per, I believe it's every 10 tables, which of course is very ridiculous, and I hope that President Trump is able to get that rectified in time, because I really believe there's no question that if they can get a full and fair look at these ballots. Now let me give you an example of why I say that. Here is an example of some of the fraud that's out there. Of the nearly 5 million votes that were cast for both the president and the former vice president, of which President Trump got somewhere around 2.5 million, and of course Biden also got about that many. But of Trump's 2.5 million votes, only about 850 ballots were cast that only had the president as the only person they voted for. In other words, there were no down ballot voting. They just voted for President Trump. But like I said, of the 2.5 million votes that were cast for him, there are about 850 that only voted for President Trump and nobody else. But on the other hand, for Joe Biden, who had about the same amount, 2.5 million votes cast for him. Almost 100,000 only voted for Joe Biden and voted for nobody else. And you know what the funny part is? This right here. This is the state that had hotly contested Senate races. And they're going to have 2 runoffs that are going to take place in January. We're talking about a very important barn burner scorcher election. And you're trying to tell me that 100,000 people who could have made the difference in 2 very hotly contested Senate votes, that basically would have given the Democrats the Senate. And right now the Republicans hold a slim lead, but they must win those runoffs in Georgia in order for the Republicans to keep the Senate. Very important. If we don't keep the Senate, the bottom line is Joe Biden, if he were to win, he would pack the court, take it from 9 to 13, erase everything that President Trump did. Abortion would still be the law of the land. But getting right back to my original thought is that you can't tell me for 1 minute that 100,000 people came to vote for Joe Biden and only voted for Joe Biden and did no down ticket voting whatsoever. We're talking about 100,000 in a hotly contested state in which the Senate majority was on the line, and 100,000 people didn't vote when they could have easily taken over the Senate if they did. And you know the reason why they didn't vote? Well, it's quite obvious. These 100,000 people were just ballot stuffers. They were created out of thin air because that's what happens when you're trying to fix an election so that one candidate wins. Now they're going to have a recount of the Georgia votes, and it's going to be very important that observers are allowed into the recount so that they can see that this fraud is rampant, and these types of votes, which, like I said, there's no down voting, are thrown out, that the signatures can be matched to see that they're probably, all 100,000 were probably made by only a few hundred people. Now, he's promised an open and transparent process, but we'll have to wait and see if that actually happens. So far, I haven't heard too many good things about this guy. So that's the story of what's going on in Georgia right now. Of course, in Pennsylvania, President Trump is winning legal battle after legal battle, and some of the votes are being thrown out because they do not meet the qualifications of the Pennsylvania voter constitution. Now, there will be other steps that will be ongoing, and the big thing is that to try to hit these moments of fraud, every single one of them, so that it's overwhelming. You know, of course, the media, they started out saying that there was no fraud. Then they were saying that, as I said in my last video, that it's mostly legal voting, and there's only a very little amount of fraud. So they've changed their story multiple times. And, you know, that's one thing they've also done as well in the presidential race. You know, back on November the 3rd, the New York Times, they raced out and declared Joe Biden as the next president-elect. And they've been calling him president-elect ever since. And that goes for the rest of the liberal media as well. They've raced out there and declared Joe Biden as the president-elect. And, of course, he's not the president-elect. They threw themselves a party, and basically the only ones that came were the liberal media. And they've been trying to convince the rest of the world, I should say the rest of the United States, because I guess they have kind of convinced the rest of the world with all the foreign leaders who have declared and congratulated Joe Biden for winning the election. But the truth of the matter is the election's simply not over with. There's still a long way to go. In fact, I believe there's 30 to 31 days. And as I've said, President Trump's legal team is winning little by little by little. And you know, the liberal media, you should hear what they're saying. They are scolding the officials and the Trump lawyers and anyone who will listen, and all the conservatives who are on these social medias, including myself, for continuing to say that the election process is not over with yet. They've spent all this time trying to convince us to give up the fight, stop crying about this election, which we're not doing. We are exhausting all of our legal terms, and that will end somewhere in mid-December. But what they're trying to get us to do is give up, stop looking for fraud, because they're afraid we're going to find it. And they're afraid we're going to find it in sufficient numbers. And they know the longer this rolls on, the more fraud that can be uncovered. And not only that, there's a chance that more witnesses will come forward, and that somebody of a major status will finally come through and turn out to be their worst nightmare, the whistleblower of their worst nightmare. So there's a lot of things that's going to happen between now and I believe it's December 12th or December 14th, when states have to have their votes certified and sealed. But I think this thing's going to go all the way to the Supreme Court. But getting back to the what I was saying about the trickery of the mainstream media, as I said back on November 3rd, they all tried to convince us that this election was over. Well, the funny thing is I got 2 alert messages from the New York Times, who had already declared Joe Biden as the president-elect and had been calling him that ever since. They sent me a message that said that Georgia has now been declared for former Vice President Joe Biden. Then a few hours later, I got another message from the New York Times that Arizona has now been called for Joe Biden. And they're still counting the votes. I think it's only about 10 or 11,000 vote difference, but they said that it's been declared for Joe Biden. Well, my question is I thought you said last week that Joe Biden was declared the president-elect and has defeated Donald Trump. And then you went on to have a media party, and Joe Biden staged this mock acceptance speech, and now here a week later, you're still declaring states for Joe Biden. I don't understand why you're still sending me this information. He's already been declared your winner. The problem is that you don't even believe Joe Biden is the president-elect. And you certainly don't believe it's over. You're just trying to convince everyone else that this is a done deal. But the problem is that nobody's buying it. As hard as the New York Times and the rest of the liberal mainstream media are trying to convince everyone that this election is over, they simply can't budge the 90 million people and the almost 73 million people who voted for him. And there's one more thing about this. They're also digging deep into this Dominion software, and that's become a very troubling thorn in the side of Michigan. One thing is for sure, that even if, and that's a big if President Trump is finally declared the loser and Joe Biden the next president, something is definitely going to have to be done with this software issue and with other issues that lend our voting system to voter fraud. And that's one of the reasons why I don't think it's going to get past the Supreme Court, because I have to believe that they see the human nature of these different state leaders who are basically allowing this fraud to take place. As I've said many times, people who are doing the right thing don't act the way they act. They don't try to limit poll watchers. They try to encourage poll watching so that this election and the officialness of it is as transparent as it can be. But from the beginning, and even as we speak today, these Democratic leaders want no part in having poll watchers come out and to view exactly what's going on. But don't believe for a second that these liberal mainstream media outlets believe that this election is over. They've been doing their best to try to convince us, the silent majority, but we know for a fact that this is an attack on our democracy and our voter rights. And if we don't stand up and continue to fight, they're going to do it again in another 4 years, or even yet sooner, 2 years. I heard Sebastian Gorka today say that he gave President Trump some advice, that one of the advices was that he needs to get out and start doing rallies again. And I agree with that 100%. He needs to get his 50,000 rallies going and keep this nation fired up. And, even though those around him are beginning to crack, I did hear someone say that Jared Kushner very well may be encouraging President Trump to concede the election. And, I hope that's not true, but the bottom line is there's going to be people throughout this election cycle that are going to try to advise the president to give up the fight and go back into private life. But another word that I'm also hearing is that he has vowed that he will never concede and that he will continue to fight until the last moment. And I hope that we will continue to lift each other up. Like I said, there is light at the end of this tunnel. I do believe that President Trump will become victorious when it's all said and done. And remember, this fight is not over until the votes are signed, sealed, and delivered, certified, in somewhere a little over a month from now. And that's what the liberal mainstream media and Joe Biden are worried about. A lot of things can be uncovered between now and then. Well, I hope you will subscribe to this channel. And as I said before, don't forget to look me up on Parler. I'm going to start sending out messages and alerts through that system probably in the next several weeks. So I'll put my handle down in the description section for anyone who wants to follow me, and especially for those who are a part of the original system of the Yahoo groups, you must get on Parler and you must follow me if in fact you want to continue to get alerts sent to you that I have a new video. Otherwise, you'd have to get on YouTube and subscribe. But if you're not, you don't want to be a part of the YouTube subscription service, then you're going to have to do this with Parler. Well, this is Terry Malone with the Calvary Prophecy Report.